If you look at Taiwan, Taiwan's predominantly an export-dependent economy, so you would have to supply downstream to them for them to really export internationally, and you'd have to look at that in cognizance of their relation to China. I mean, we all know that they're large in the semiconductor industry, they're very large in the optics components industry, and they supply a lot of optics to the likes of Apple, and large Delta Group supplies to China, to Samsung and Xiaomi, which is a company that's coming up in terms of the handset device. So they're involved in the PC business. They're quite excited that XP from Windows has been discontinued, so more people will probably be buying newer PCs, which they supply into. So when South Africans and South African businesses are thinking of supplying and exporting into the likes of Taiwan, you have to consider that you have to go backstream so that they can provide their services and be export-led. One of the challenges that the Taipei government or governing body has is the government's reached its debt ceiling, and it's struggling to pump money into the economy to grow it. That said, the Taiwanese, the island economy is growing at about 3.1% per annum, which is not bad considering the global austerity measures that are taking place in the West. Well, I still think Thailand's got a lot of legs. Obviously, we've seen the military coup taking place. The previous leader, Shinawatra, has been ousted by General Prayuth. But they're still pushing 1.5% GDP growth this year, which is half of what they were last year. It's understandable with the current political climate. But analysts are predicting it going up to 5 to 5.5% next year GDP growth. I think as South Africans, we would love, at the moment, 1.5% GDP growth, and we don't even have a military coup. So I think there's lots of opportunity still in Thailand. Obviously, we know they're the world's largest rubber manufacturer, second largest manufacturer of hard drives and light vehicles, amongst a myriad of other things. They are the largest economy in the ASEAN region, which is the Association of Southeast Asian Nations. So that does hold and bear fruit. So I think lots of investment opportunity with Thailand, a good place to do business, even though the political climate isn't so conducive at the moment. I believe things will change rapidly over the next 3 or 4 quarters. I think Taiwan is still figuring out its position to China. They are trying to create a pact with China to improve import-export. There has been a bit of hollowing out of Taiwanese institutions and businesses, because a lot of skills are shifting to the mainland because they can get higher wages and bigger scale, bigger growth. But I think our relations with Taiwan are very strong, just as they are with China. We've played quite centrally. We're kind of smack bang in the middle of east and west, and I think we've played relatively well to China and investments coming into this country, which we've been receptive of. So again, I think supplying goods, either beneficiated if we can do that, which is always a challenge. I think it's a big issue in South Africa around with lack of beneficiation of products before they go out. We're giving away products we're selling products, exporting products to countries that haven't been beneficiated and added value to. It's challenging because the ASEAN nations have been very clever around this. It's not like an ECOWAS, which hasn't really taken off in Africa. The ASEAN nations have been very, very strategic in the way that they've made sure that certain goods pass through certain countries where they add beneficiation and sell them back to us. So we have to think about how we can position ourselves industry-wise to supply into these countries. Obviously, China is a great opportunity, but the likes of Taiwan is very specific around optics, around semiconductors, and we see some work coming out of that in terms of maybe more R&D, services type work coming out from the Western Cape that has options into Taiwan. And in regards to Thailand, it's heavy industry in the sense of vehicle manufacturing, hard drives. We see the agro-processing business, which is very strong in Thailand, and some of the incumbents that have gone on this trade mission to Thailand are from the agro-processing business, and that's a big opportunity that we can leverage when supplying into these countries. I think you've got to be politically aware before you enter into these markets. I think in emerging markets we see politics driving economics, and I think one is to make sure that they understand the political drivers that affect the economic drivers. The other side of it is to really engage. A lot of these economies want to do business. And when I say do business, they don't want to do politics with a country, they want to do business. You often find in the West they want to do politics through business. And it's a way for them maybe to manipulate or control situations that are in their favor for the long run. Whereas in the likes of these Asian economies, particularly Taiwan and Thailand, they want to do business first, maybe in politics second.